Welcome to the reality of building a container house. In this series, we are going to go over important topics such as finding land, permits and engineering, construction, and cost comparisons. So, most importantly, be sure to subscribe to see the videos in this series and to see our container house on Pacific Pines Ranch. Okay, episode 1. Finding land. This is the first step that you will want to take because you cannot build a house without land. Oh my god, my legs. So the first thing you're going to want to consider when you're out there searching for your little piece of paradise is temperature. What are the seasons like? Does the area have huge temperature swings such as 40 plus degrees between morning and evening? What is the precipitation or humidity like? All of these points are going to play a huge role in how you design and build your container house. For example, if you're looking for a piece of land in the middle of the desert, you probably are going to want to design your house with a lot of shade. Protect yourself against those UV rays. That gives hot box a whole new meaning. If there's a lot of snow in the area, you are going to have to consider snow loads in your design of your container house. And when I first started, I didn't know what a snow load was. And basically a snow load is the weight of the snow on your house. And you probably won't have a flat roof, or it will have to be like heated to melt the snow away. Or just be really strong enough to hold all the snow up, because snow, surprisingly, is pretty heavy. And if there's somewhere that you're looking for land and there is a lot of precipitation or humidity, such as the Pacific Northwest, where we are building, you are going to want to design your container house with corrosion in mind to protect your containers against corrosion. One thing to note, containers have almost zero insulation value, so if you are somewhere where it's very hot or very cold, the container itself is going to be very hot or very cold. Now, this can be combated with proper insulation and is totally doable because there are container builds all over the world, literally in the North Pole, all the way down to the middle of the desert and in tropical areas, so it's doable. But it's just something you're going to want to keep in mind when you are looking to find a piece of land. You get what I mean, I hope. And if you don't, comment below, I will clarify. Okay, so second thing to consider is the terrain of the land. Is the land flat or sloped? Is there a ton of trees, or is it just a giant desert? Are there resources on the land, such as a lot of sun to set up solar, water, or like I said, trees to either use in your building as building materials, or you can use them to heat your house? Again, all of these points will affect how you will design and build your container house. For example, really sloped land is more difficult to access and more difficult to build on, but usually offers some pretty kick-ass views. As I mentioned before, trees can be used as a building material, and they can also be used to heat your land. To heat your house. So if you look for a piece of land that has a ton of trees on it, you can utilize those to your advantage. They also offer shade too. And if you're looking for a piece of land, let's say in the desert, it's a perfect opportunity to set up solar because it is sunny all the time, most of the time, a lot of the time. So great opportunity to set up solar should you want to be self-sufficient in energy. And water, if you have a well or surface water or anything like that, you can use it not only for your house, but for gardening, livestock. There's other options. Water is a good resource to have. Very good. Okay, now the third very important point is location. Is the land located near a large town? How far away is the land from the nearest port, like where they receive and send goodies, products, I don't know. And what are the local requirements for building? That's a big one. These points will play a huge role in building a container house. Huge. So living close to a large town will mean that it's easier to get supplies and it's easier to have supplies delivered to you on this piece of land that you're looking at or had bought, I don't know. Both of those will cut down on travel time and delivery costs in your overall project. Now, how far away is the land to the nearest port? The closer it is, the cheaper and more easier it is to find and get containers delivered. The farther away, the more expensive they are and the more scarce they are and the more expensive they are to ship them to you. Now, the most vital point, the local requirements for building, the local county requirements. This is the first thing you should look into if you find a piece of land you're interested in, because every county is different. They all have different requirements. Some they will require a bunch of inspections, some have no inspections for the most part. Some have building permits that you need to apply for, some don't, and some don't allow container houses at all. So that would be very important to look into. When you find a piece of land that you're interested in, go to the county that it's located in. The building department, planning department, land use department, all of those people will be able to give you answers to any questions you have regarding building on your piece of land. And they'll also let you know what's required of you and what you need to do to get permission from Big Brother. My dog, she keeps making me pet her. Oh, Peep, you demanding some pets? You have any advice? What is your advice to everybody on building a container house, finding land? Peanut, she would recommend to look for some sand because she loves sand. Oh, Peep. So the fourth point I want to talk about is access. Does the land have an access road? If so, what is the scope of the access road? Is it narrow and windy and difficult to get to and difficult to go down? Or is it large and flat and open and easy to travel upon? Is there an access road at all? That would be the first question. Also, another thing to think about is what kind of deliveries you can receive. Also, what utilities are available. And by utilities, I mean power or electricity, water, and sewer or septic. A little example for you. When we bought our piece of land, there was no access road, so we had to make an access road. And depending on how far away the piece of land is that you would be interested in will greatly affect the overall cost of building a road. The longer it is, the more costly it is, and the more sloped and kind of crazy it is, the more costly it will be. Stuff like excavation, gravel, or asphalt, if you wanted to do asphalt, they can add up really fast. So distance is a huge factor. Also, another thing to think about is deliveries. To build a container house, you're gonna have to have some pretty large deliveries. Maybe one with a semi. You're gonna have to get the container to the land, first of all, which can be tricky depending on where this land is. And you'll also have to have other sort of deliveries as well, like potentially a crane to put the containers where you want them to be. So those are just some things to think about when you see a piece of land and you're going to the land. How do you get there, and can you get large things there onto the land somewhat easily? If you cannot, that's just an expense you'll have to factor in your overall plan. Now, for utilities, the closer the land is to utilities, public utilities, the cheaper it will be to connect to them. The farther away, the more expensive. And those costs vary depending on where you are looking at land. They can be greatly different depending on what state, what county, what area. So that's just something that you'll have to look into. Now, if you had no utilities, you will have to be setting up your utilities on your own, which isn't impossible. But again, it's just something you'll have to factor into your overall plan. For example, if you're looking for a piece of land that's very sunny, solar would be a great option. Very windy, maybe a wind turbine. Or as far as a septic system goes, there's like a bunch of different types of septic systems. They all range a lot in price and how to set them up. So again, just something that you'll have to factor into your plan. Always good to have a plan. Gotta check my notes. I always forget what I'm saying. Okay, so my fifth and final point for this video is space. Are you planning on converting the containers on the piece of land that you're interested in? Are you planning on having a bunch of work contracted out? If so, those are some things that you're going to want to consider. If you're going to have people come work on your container, you're going to want to have space for parking, you're going to want to have space for the actual construction itself, and to store all of the equipment and supplies that you need. If you plan on doing it yourself, you will either have to bring tools back and forth with you, or you will have to store them on site somewhere. So that's just something to consider. If maybe the piece of land is like quite small, you might want to grab a measuring tape and kind of like plan out a little map of what you would like to do for those 2 points. So another thing to consider is parking, because parking can be used up very quickly, and if you are in an area that's maybe more urban, it's just one thing again to factor in to the overall plan of your container house. So you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I super appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe to see the next part of this video series, which will be a big one: permits and engineering. Be sure to check out and follow our social media pages. I have a bunch of stuff on there on our experience building a container house, a lot of info on how we went about our build and everything like that. So it's just another thing to check out. And don't forget to comment below if you have any questions. And lastly, most importantly, don't forget to chase your dreams.